Something is wrong with 3i Atlas. Nobody wants to admit it out loud, but the truth has already slipped through the cracks. Astronomers know it, NASA knows it, even Harvard scientists are now whispering it, the same people who mocked anyone who dared to question official explanations. But they're not laughing anymore, because the latest measurements prove beyond any doubt this thing is not acting like a comet. It's growing, changing, and behaving like nothing we've ever seen in our skies. And tonight, I'm going to show you what they're not telling you. So before we go any deeper, make sure you subscribe. Because this story isn't a headline, it's a countdown. And by the time 3i Atlas returns from behind the sun, it might already be too late to pretend this is just a comet. It all began quietly, the same way space mysteries always do first, with denial. When telescopes first picked up 3i Atlas last year, it was dismissed as harmless, a frozen rock drifting through space. The third interstellar object ever found visiting our solar system after Oumuamua and Borisov. That alone should have made it important, but not alarming. But there was something off about it right from the start, and everyone ignored it. Most comets come from our own solar system, from the icy reaches far beyond Pluto. They follow long-stretched orbits around the Sunday. But 3i Atlas was different from day one. Its path wasn't a loop. It was a hyperbolic trajectory, open-ended. Meaning one thing, it came from outside our solar system. But here's the detail no one talked about. Its path through space was too perfect, too controlled. Instead of diving in from a random direction, which is what interstellar objects normally do, it arrived only 5 degrees above the orbital plane of the planets, the exact flat sheet where Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and the rest of our planets revolve. The odds of that happening by random chance? Less than 0.2%. A cosmic accident that shouldn't exist, yet it does. So what was it doing arriving at our level aligned with our planets like it came looking for something? NASA never addressed that. They just ran with, "It's a comet, nothing to see, don't panic, classic damage control." But then something happened they couldn't hide. 3i Atlas started growing. At first it looked normal, just a glowing speck reflecting sunlight. But then its brightness spiked. Then it spiked again and again, until telescopes began returning numbers, so extreme scientists had to recheck their instrument. The coma, the giant cloud around its core, was expanding at an impossible rate. First a few thousand miles across, then 100,000, then 400,000 miles wide. That's bigger than Jupiter, bigger than the sun's diameter. A cosmic monster growing faster than calculations allowed. And when something grows that fast, scientists expect it to die even faster. Normally, that much activity destroys a comet. Pressure from within makes it explode, shattering into dust and frozen fragments. Everyone expected 3i Atlas to break apart, but it didn't. It survived. It held together through forces that should have blown it apart like a detonated bomb. That means one thing. Its core isn't made like a comet. It's not a loose pile of ice and dust. It has structure, strength, engineering, something built to survive. Then came the photo that changed everything. The Hubble Space Telescope captured a long, clean exposure of 3I Atlas. Scientists expected to see the usual, a glowing tail blowing away from the Sunday. And yes, there was a tail, though messy and chaotic. But there was also something else. Something pointing in the wrong direction. A narrow beam of light shooting out from the front of the object, against a solar wind, against comet physics, against everything we know about nature. A forward-facing beam, a headlight. A comet doesn't produce a headlight, but a ship might. This was the moment the scientific world changed forever, though most people never heard about it, because that image didn't stay public for long. Within hours, reports were edited. Words like anomalous jet became likely dust artifact. They tried to bury the facts. But dozens of independent astronomers had already downloaded the raw Hubble data. They analyzed it themselves. The beam was real, not dust, not gas, not a glitch. Now, even Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, the man who first proposed that Oumuamua might be artificial, has spoken out about 3I Atlas. And this time, he didn't hold back. The laws of physics don't explain what we're seeing, he said, but technology does. NASA will never say that. ESA won't touch that statement, but off the record, scientists are talking, and they're saying exactly what you already know deep down. Something is here, and it didn't come to be studied. It came because it has a purpose. And that's where our story begins. 3I Atlas didn't just break the rules of comet physics, it shattered them one by one in plain sight. And part 2 of this story starts with the moment scientists realized the object wasn't just strange, it was impossible. After the forward-facing beam was confirmed, panic quietly spread behind observatory walls. Because if that beam was real, and it was then, that meant 3I Atlas wasn't being pushed by sunlight like a normal comet. It was steering. Small course corrections began to show up in the tracking data, tiny deviations from the path predicted by gravity alone. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would trigger headlines, just little nudges. But those nudges didn't match solar radiation pressure, or comet outgassing, or any natural force we know. They matched vector adjustments, a path being refined, a trajectory being chosen. But if you follow that path long enough, something terrifying comes into view, something no space agency has acknowledged yet. 3I Atlas was not just passing through our solar system. It was moving toward specific locations. And it had already visited the first one, Mars, the Mars flyby. Weeks before anyone on Earth paid attention, Mars had already seen 3I Atlas up close. NASA stayed quiet about this, but amateur astronomers noticed something strange. Just before the object made its closest pass near Mars, Perseverance, the most advanced rover ever built, went silent. Not offline, not dead, just silent. For exactly 12 minutes. 12 minutes of data missing. When communications resumed, NASA claimed it was a routine uplink problem. Happens all the time, nothing unusual. But here's the problem with that explanation. Mars orbiters went quiet too. Not one, not two, 3 separate orbiters stopped transmitting raw imaging data during the same 12 minutes. 3I Atlas came into range. Cameras stopped sending images. 12 minutes vanished. Coincidence? Not a chance. Here's what leaked next, a blurry frame posted briefly on a small astronomy forum before being deleted. It showed something no Mars camera had captured before, a green flash streaking across the horizon of Mars. Not a meteor. Meteors burn orange or white in thin atmospheres. Not green. Green comes from one thing in astrophysics: ionization. Something charged passed through that sky. Something energized. What was it? The spectral shock. Then Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter sent back spectral data light broken into wavelengths. It was supposed to show the chemical makeup of the object. Instead, it gave us something else. The signature was wrong. Typical comets show water, methane, maybe some sodium. But 3I Atlas? No water, not even a trace. Instead, nickel. Massive amounts of nickel. And cyanogen gas, a deadly compound used in advanced fuel chemistry. This is where excuses from space agencies started falling apart. Because comets don't glow bright green without carbon, but this one did. And nickel? In this amount? Nickel is used in engine shielding, spacecraft hulls, and magnetized technology. So why was an interstellar comet built like a ship? The unseen objects. But Mars gave us one more clue, maybe the biggest of all. 2 small objects were detected trailing behind 3I Atlas, moving in formation, perfectly spaced, adjusting their speed in sync. NASA called them debris fragments. But debris doesn't fly in formation. Debris doesn't adjust speed. Debris doesn't follow you. These weren't pieces, they were escorts. Or probes. Or something worse. And that's when the tone of every insider report changed. This wasn't a comet. This wasn't random. And it clearly wasn't alone. Something arrived with it. Something watching. Something scanning. Then it got worse. Because once 3I Atlas passed Mars, it changed direction by just enough to aim itself toward Earth. And it didn't just aim. It began to align, to synchronize, and the first signal came through. 3I Atlas wasn't just growing, it was reacting. But reacting to what became the biggest debate in astronomy since the discovery of dark energy. In early tracking data, researchers noticed tiny but measurable course corrections, shifts so small they were originally written off as noise. But noise doesn't follow a pattern, and this did. The object adjusted its path every time it passed through regions of strong magnetic distortion areas influenced by solar wind turbulence. Think about that. This thing wasn't drifting like a rock. It was navigating. NASA stayed quiet. Too quiet. But a private observatory in Chile released a bombshell frame-stacked long exposure footage showing 3I Atlas emitting microbursts from beneath its coma. Jets, maybe. Thrusters, maybe. Except they weren't chemical burns. They left no thermal trace. They were something else, controlled, precise, and timed. The footage spread across encrypted forums faster than wildfire, and then it vanished, pulled down, copyright strikes, legal threats. The kind of aggressive takedown you don't see unless someone really wants something gone. But one frame survived. It showed three-eye Atlas surrounded by an expanding emerald glow, firing a jet not away from the sun like nature demands, but sideways. A lateral burn. Space agencies scrambled for explanations, none made sense. Rocks don't fire sideways jets. Pressure doesn't magically hold to one direction. This was control. This was course adjustment. And that's when something darker came to light. The European Space Agency quietly published a single line buried deep in a technical report. Is greater than non-gravitational influences detected. Source unknown. That was the closest any official body has come to admitting the truth. But this wasn't even the most disturbing find. Radar pings began bouncing back late. Let me explain why that matters. When we study an object in space, we send out radio waves and measure how long they take to return a simple, clean process. Radar out, radar back, done. But Three-Eye Atlas gave delayed returns, microscopic delays that shouldn't exist. Something was absorbing and retransmitting the signals. Something computational, meaning it wasn't just reacting to physics, it was processing incoming energy. That's not comet behavior. That's system behavior. And then came the sharpest twist so far. At exactly 2:13 UTC during the routine deep space scan, the object blinked, not visually, electromagnetically. Every instrument scanning it registered the same thing, one single pulse. A frequency spike at exactly 1,420 megahertz. If that number sounds familiar, it should. Is the hydrogen line the most protected, most important frequency in the entire cosmos? The one SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, has monitored for decades. Because hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, that frequency is universal. It's used in interstellar communication theories. Nature doesn't use 1,420 megahertz. Civilizations do. And for 0.8 seconds, Three-Eye Atlas used it. Was it a glitch? Impossible. 3 separate telescopes registered the spike, the Allen Array in California, the Sardinia Radio Telescope in Italy, and the Parkes Observatory in Australia. 3 instruments on 3 continents picked up the same pulse, same moment, same energy. It was real, and then silence again, like it was waiting, like it was listening. Suddenly, this wasn't about astronomy anymore. It was about contact. That's when a scientist from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, under an encrypted alias, posted a 7-word message that was erased minutes later. Is greater than, it's not a comet. It's mapping us. Mapping us. Whatever Three-Eye Atlas is, it isn't just passing by. It isn't just drifting. It's observing. It's sampling fields, analyzing orbits, scanning electromagnetic noise like something preparing to interact. Or worse, preparing to choose. The question is, what happens when it decides? Now things escalate. Because what came next, the disappearance, the Mars blackout, and the missing frames, are where this story stops being strange and becomes terrifying. Let me take you there. It started days before anyone noticed tiny gaps in routine data feeds from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. Just milliseconds at first, then seconds, Then entire packets of raw telemetry vanished. Engineers called it a transmission dropout. They blamed solar interference. They always do. But that excuse didn't last long. On the night 3I Atlas made its closest pass to Mars, every active spacecraft around the planet, NASA orbiters, ESA satellites, even China's Tianwen module, recorded the same anomaly, a blackout, not damage, not failure, just silence. Like someone pressed pause on the Martian sky. And here's what made it even stranger. Only the imaging systems went dark. Telemetry stayed online, radiation sensors, navigation systems, spectrum logs, all normal. Only cameras lost raw capture data. Think about that. Why sabotage the eyes but not the ship? For 41 minutes and 17 seconds, not a single frame was recorded. Then, just as suddenly as it began, everything went back to normal. The shutdown wasn't random. It was synchronized across machines built by different countries, different programming languages, and different electrical design. There is no natural phenomenon that targets cameras across 3 separate space agencies. Something didn't want to be seen. And something had the capability to interfere without being detected. And here's where this story explodes. 24 hours after the blackout, a leak appeared anonymously on a hidden telemetry archive used by researchers to exchange Mars observation data. The file wasn't labeled. No one claimed to upload it. But once decrypted, it contained 6 missing frames from the blackout window taken by the Mars Express visual monitoring camera. I've seen them. I wish I could unsee them. Frame 1. Mars horizon. Normal. Frame 2. A streak-thin emerald cutting the sky. Same color as the coma glow from 3I Atlas. Frame 3. Distortion rippling through the frame like heat blur, except space doesn't have heat blur. Frame 4. Something behind the distortion structure. Not rock, not ice, angular, too geometric, too precise. Frame 5. The structure, closer. And then you see it. The surface isn't smooth. It's patterned, layered like overlapping plates. Something built, not born. Frame 6. Black screen. End of file. Within minutes of surfacing, the upload disappeared. Accounts linked to the leak vanished. Mirrors were purged, but not before screenshots spread through encrypted channels like wildfire. The headline wasn't the visuals, it was the metadata. Those frames weren't sent from Mars Express. They were pulled from a restricted directory, a classification tier used only for planetary defense-level investigations. Why would an interstellar comet be flagged under planetary defense? Unless it isn't a comet. Later that day, a JPL insider quietly said something to a group of astronomers who were pushing for answers. 4 words before the room went silent. Is greater than, this is not ours. Interpret that however you want. NASA won't speak. ESA won't speak. China won't speak. But silence is an answer. 3I Atlas came from outside our system. It changes its own trajectory. It emits controlled energy beams. It disrupts spacecraft sensors. And now sightings suggest it has structure, form, geometry. This is not a natural body. And that's not even the worst part. Because sometime after the Mars blackout, something else woke up. A signal we didn't send. A pulse we didn't understand. And whatever is inside 3I Atlas, it's now looking back. Most people still don't know this part, not because it wasn't detected, but because it was detected and immediately buried. The first hint came from the Deep Space Network, the massive radio antenna system NASA uses to talk to spacecraft across the solar system. Shortly after the Mars blackout, all three DSN stations, Canberra, Madrid, and Goldstone, logged a repeating interference pattern, riding the low-frequency background noise. It didn't appear in normal telemetry. It didn't show up on public channels. But in the raw RF feed the heartbeat of deep space, it was there, a pulse. Every 22.4 seconds. At first, engineers thought it was solar noise or atmospheric distortion. Then they checked the source direction and everything changed. The pulse wasn't coming from the Sunday, it wasn't coming from Mars. It was coming from the exact coordinates of 3I Atlas. Even worse, the timing matched perfectly with the blackout window during the Mars flyby. In other words, it didn't just pass Mars. It turned on. Nobody wanted to say it. Nobody wanted to even hint at the possibility. But whether they liked it or not, 3I Atlas was now transmitting. But here's the part they can't explain. The signal was not a broadcast. It was a scan. Each pulse swept through a different frequency range, as if mapping the space around it. The intensity fluctuated in the rhythm, not random static, but structured energy. It was behaving like radar, but deeper, smarter, purposeful. By day 3, private observatories began picking up fragments of it. Amateurs using hydrogen line receivers detected it too. And that's when an astrophysicist from Chile, who has since deleted his account, posted this. Is greater than the signal has phase rotation. It is encoding spatial coordinates. It is searching for something. Within 6 hours, his research page vanished. Within 12 hours, his observatory access was revoked. Within 24 hours, he disappeared from academic directories entirely. Meanwhile, the pulse continued. 22.4 seconds. Relentless. Growing. But then on day 6, it changed. Something new emerged. A short burst between pulses too quiet for most receivers to detect, but strong enough to register on high-sensitivity quantum arrays. That burst wasn't noise. It was binary. The first successful decode came from a civilian lab in Finland. They mapped the bit stream, and when they converted it, it produced coordinates, not random ones. Coordinates on Earth, the exact location, a point in the South Pacific Ocean. No land, no islands, no known installations, just open water. Except when cross-referenced deeper, those coordinates did line up, not with the surface, but with an anomaly. Deep below, an acoustic void recorded by submarine arrays since 1997. A region where sonar mysteriously fails. A region officially labeled by the US Navy as classified, no signal zone. 3I Atlas sent its first message. It wasn't asking who we are or if we're alone. It sent coordinates, a location on Earth. as if it already knew we were here. Question is, how? And what did it leave there? When those coordinates hit the Deep Space Network logs, there was panic. Quiet panic, the kind powerful people never admit in public. The DSN scrubbed the data from their servers. The administrators denied the anomaly existed, and once again the story was supposed to end there. Except it didn't. Because while governments tried to bury it, the ocean didn't. 48 hours after the binary coordinates were decoded, something started happening in the South Pacific. First, it was strange electrical surges detected by underwater cables. Then marine radar systems began picking up vertical columns of ionized water thin, invisible to the eye but rising miles into the atmosphere like silent towers of steam. Then came a hum. It didn't travel through radio waves. It didn't use satellites. It came through the ocean, carried by deep resonance. Australian research vessel RV Investigator was the first to record it. Instruments on the ship detected a rising pulse below the audible range of human hearing, 18 Hz, vibrating through the seafloor. Every time 3i Atlas pulsed from space, the ocean answered. Something below had woken up. The scientists aboard the Investigator thought it might be volcanic tremors or thermal movement in the Earth's crust. But then someone noticed the rhythm. It wasn't geological. It was synchronized. It was intelligent. 3i Atlas wasn't calling us. It was calling something here. That's when things escalated fast. The US Navy locked down the area. Chinese surveillance satellites began circling above. France activated military assets in Polynesia, and subtly without warning, over 60 international shipping routes were quietly redirected away from a circular exclusion zone exactly 150 miles wide. No explanation, no public warning, just silence. The last civilian ship to get close, an Indonesian fishing vessel, sent a distress call. The audio was short, only 6 words before it cut out. Is greater than the sea is moving from below. The vessel vanished from radar. Not sunk, not lost, erased. And still, 3i Atlas kept transmitting like a countdown had begun, and nobody on Earth could stop it. Meanwhile, the James Webb Space Telescope continued tracking it as it moved deeper along its trajectory. The coma dimmed, the jets stabilized. And then for the first time ever, its headlight beam didn't point toward the Sunday. It pointed at Earth, not in a random sweep, not at the South Pacific. At a specific location, the position lined up with another structure, this one not under the sea but buried in plain sight. Antarctica, a region known as Sector 7, a restricted scientific zone where multiple countries have deployed research teams over decades. Yet, nobody knows what they're researching. 3i Atlas was now locked on Earth. 2 locations, 2 signals. The ocean answered. The ice answered. Something was building between them, a circuit. And for the first time ever, scientists realized the terrifying possibility. 3i Atlas didn't just come here. Whatever 3i Atlas was activating, it was no longer subtle. The whole planet could now feel it, even if most people didn't know why. The next sign came from the sky. commercial pilots flying long-haul routes over the Pacific began reporting a strange new phenomenon, luminous arcs forming high in the atmosphere. Not auroras, not lightning, something else. They called them sky fractures. Gigantic shimmering rings some over 600 miles wide, appearing for a few seconds at a time before vanishing. No thunder, no charge. Just silent geometry hanging in the sky like some invisible force was trying to tear through. One pilot described it perfectly. It's greater than, it was like watching a doorway flicker, but the doorway hadn't opened yet. NASA dismissed the reports. The European Space Agency denied receiving pilot footage. But then, an Air New Zealand captain leaked a cockpit recording to independent journalists. There it was, a pulsing circle of light dead center above the South Pacific exclusion zone, perfectly synchronized with the hump. The world finally had proof. Something unnatural was happening, something global. But this was only what we could see. What it was doing to the Earth itself was worse. Electromagnetic observatories started logging massive anomalies. Earth's magnetic field, the shield that protects us from solar radiation, was being pulled downward in one region, dragged down, exactly over the point where the signals from Antarctica and the South Pacific align. Imagine Earth's magnetic field like a fabric, and something beneath that fabric was pulling it inward, hard. Magnetic lines were spiraling like water down a drain, converging at the exact geometric center point between those two locations. Not random, designed. Then came the data nobody wanted to believe. MIT researchers discovered that the signals 3I Atlas was pulsing were based on harmonic resonance frequencies that matched the natural oscillation cycles of planetary systems. Someone or something understood how to manipulate gravity and magnetic fields, and they were using Earth as a component. The truth hit like a gut punch. This wasn't a comet passing through. This wasn't natural. This was engineering. 3I Atlas was building something using Earth's magnetic field, and we were powerless to stop it. Then the signal changed again. One additional frequency was added, a repeating tone that had never appeared before. When it was decoded, it wasn't a number. It was a location, a third one, coordinates for Earth. The transmission from 3I Atlas now revealed a triangular formation South Pacific, Antarctica, and a third point directly under North America, buried deep under layers of Earth's crust. A triangle like a circuit. Something was waiting underground in 3 places across the planet. And 3I Atlas wasn't flying by us on accident. Whatever 3I Atlas awakened, it had already begun. And the next sign didn't come from the sky this time. It came from beneath us. Seismic stations across the world detected a new type of vibration. Not earthquakes, not volcanic tremors. Something deeper, steady, rhythmic, mechanical. It wasn't random. It was timed. Every 24 seconds, a pulse. Seismologists called it the global beat, a vibration echoing through the entire planet like a heartbeat. Except it didn't match anything found in nature. Earth doesn't pulse. It rotates. It wobbles. It flexes slightly with tides. But it does not pulse. Yet now, Every continent felt the same repeating tremor, from Europe to Siberia, from Argentina to Alaska. Even instruments on the moon picked it up through lunar seismometers. NASA tried to dismiss it as microseismic activity caused by ocean wave resonance. But we weren't stupid anymore. Ocean waves don't pulse with precision. They don't sync with cosmic frequencies. And they definitely don't match signals from a supposed comet. 3I Atlas was linked to it. No question now. Meanwhile, in Chile, in the Atacama Desert, home to some of the world's most powerful instruments, ALMA Radio Observatory found something terrifying. The pulse wasn't just shaking Earth, it was mapping it. Like a scanning beam, the pulse intensity peaked along fault lines, tectonic plates, and dense underground structures, almost like it was studying the internal layout of the planet, not just Earth looking inside of it. And then we began to notice something else. The pulse was accelerating, slowly, from once every 24 seconds to once every 23.8 seconds, then 23.6, then 23.2. At this rate, it was counting down toward something big, something alive. The deeper we looked, the more obvious it became. 3I Atlas wasn't just interacting with the planet. It was communicating with something inside it. We always assumed Earth was silent. But what if it isn't? What if Earth was never just a planet? What if, just like 3I Atlas, it has always been part of a network? And what if something buried inside this world has finally answered the call? It was calling them, activating them, one by one, not to destroy Earth, to awaken it. Then came the first visual response, not from telescopes, not from satellites, but from the skies above us. It began as a rumor on a ham radio channel. Then it hit Reddit, then Telegram. Then every encrypted whistleblower forum online exploded with the same 3 words. The sky rippled. It first appeared over northern Canada, then over Norway, then Chile, then Australia. Massive circular distortions in the sky, like invisible waves, rode silently across the upper atmosphere. Not auroras, not lightning, not clouds, not anything we've seen before. And in every single recorded clip, the ripple matched the pulse perfectly timed, exactly once every pulsation of 3I Atlas. As these invisible sky waves spread, something even stranger followed. Faint glyphs began appearing within them. Symbols, shapes, patterns encoded in the distortions themselves, lasting only milliseconds before vanishing again. Scientists first thought it was compression noise in the video footage. Then astronomers caught it too. Then NASA quietly flagged it as is greater than non-random atmospheric anomalies under EM modulation. Non-random. That's as close as NASA will ever get to admitting one thing. It's a signal. People started slowing the footage down, frame by frame, using AI enhancement. And that's when we saw it. Those patterns weren't random shapes, they were coordinates. Someone or something was marking locations on Earth. Every ripple pointed somewhere specific, ancient locations, megalithic sites, and regions long rumored to hide something beyond human understanding. The coordinates connected like lines, a spiral, a global spiral carved across Earth. And at the center of that spiral, the place where every line converged, was one specific location: Antarctica. A continent of secrets, a continent with restricted zones, a continent with buried things no one talks about. 3i Atlas wasn't here by chance. It was triggering something, activating something, or calling out something that had been waiting. This wasn't a visit. This was a return. And whatever Antarctica is hiding, it's about to wake up. The governments of the world denied everything, of course. They always do. But satellites don't lie, and soon the truth leaked anyway. Something was happening in Antarctica. Thermal satellites from Europe picked it up first, a massive heat bloom beneath the ice. Not volcanic, not geothermal, something else. Something spreading underground in a perfect circular pattern, as if something huge was powering up beneath the continent. Then came the power surges. Research stations across Antarctica began reporting unexplained electrical interference. Instruments fried. Communications scrambled. Even backup generators failed, but only in certain regions, the same regions that matched the strange spiral mapped from the sky pulses. Then the reports stopped. Every research base within that spiral went dark. Lockdown orders were issued. Restricted no-fly zones expanded overnight. Military patrols increased. Nations that normally hate each other worked together to lock Antarctica down. That's when the drilling began. Subsurface radar picked up seismic tremors, not earthquakes, but rhythmic mechanical vibrations. Something was digging beneath the ice, something precise, artificial. The digging stopped after 48 hours. Then we lost the first satellite. Not shut down, not malfunction, vaporized. A US surveillance satellite caught a final frame before it went offline, a beam of green light rising up from Antarctica, the same spectral frequency as 3i Atlas, the same unnatural cosmic green, found nowhere in nature. 3i Atlas was syncing not just with Earth, but with something buried beneath Antarctica. The world now faced a terrifying question. What if 3i Atlas didn't come to us? What if it came for what we are sitting on? Ancient civilizations have whispered about lost worlds beneath the ice, secret archives, hidden chambers, even technologies left behind by beings called the architects, the ones said to have shaped worlds and maybe even life itself. Most think those are myths, but myths don't power up machines under 2 miles of ice. And myths don't send signals into space. The digging began again. This time it wasn't coming from below. It was coming from above. Multiple objects were descending through our atmosphere, silent, sleek forms that did not burn up, did not slow down, and were not made by any human nation on Earth. They were heading straight for Antarctica. 3i Atlas was not alone anymore, and whatever was buried here, it was calling something home. The world never got an official announcement. No press conference, no warning, just silence. But silence, real silence, is impossible to hide. Commercial pilots flying near polar routes began reporting something strange, an invisible wall. They couldn't see it, but their instruments reacted to it. Magnetic disruption, sudden loss of altimeters, compass spin, autopilot failure. Planes were being forced to reroute thousands of miles around Antarctica. But here's the strangest part. Every time a plane got too close, passengers reported the same thing: a low hum. That same 24-second pulse 3i Atlas used. Meanwhile, underground sensors registered something massive moving below the ice. A perfect circular structure, 300 miles wide, pulsing with electromagnetic energy. A ring, a construct, and then came the sound. Hydrophones, the underwater microphones used to monitor nuclear submarines, picked up a repeating tone beneath the Antarctic ice shelf. Not random, not seismic, patterned. 5 tones. Then a pause. 5 more. Again and again. The signal was decoded not by governments but by musicians. It wasn't random at all. It was harmonic. It was music. Someone or something had buried technology beneath Antarctica, still alive, still operating, and now synchronizing with 3i Atlas. But if that was true, then whatever 3i Atlas is, it didn't come here to visit Earth. It came here to reactivate Earth. Meanwhile, a new discovery was made, not in Antarctica, but in Africa. A group of researchers scanning ancient stone ruins beneath the Sahara found carvings thousands of years old, showing the same orbital spiral 3i Atlas has followed. In one carving, the comet-like object is shown hovering above 3 planets in alignment: Earth, Mars, Jupiter. The exact alignment 3i Atlas passed through. In the center of the carving, a ring shape matching the structure beneath Antarctica. Beneath it, inscribed in symbols older than every known language: "When the star of return awakens, the world will tilt and the sea will rise. From the ice, the architects will return." Scientists dismissed it as mythology. Now they aren't so sure. Seismologists recently detected something else. The ring beneath Antarctica isn't alone. There are 12 identical rings, all connected around the planet in a massive geometric network aligned to ancient sacred sites across the world. Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, the pyramids of Giza, Göbekli Tepe, Easter Island. They aren't random after all. They're node points in a planetary system that has been asleep for thousands of years. And 3i Atlas is waking it up. The storms aren't a coincidence. The strange earthquakes aren't a coincidence. The auroras over continents that should never see them aren't a coincidence. Earth is responding to a signal we didn't send. And tonight, that signal just changed. For the first time, the pulse stopped. The new signal isn't a hum. It's a transmission. It began at 3:11 UTC, a moment that now marks a line in history. The moment before and the moment after. All over the world, every system sensitive to radio frequency, deep space antennas, ham radios, weather radars, submarine communication lines, even baby monitors picked up the same burst. A whispering wave of energy, low and layered, carried on a narrow frequency no one was even listening to. 1,420 megahertz. The hydrogen line, the universal frequency used in SETI to search for alien life. This wasn't random static. This wasn't cosmic noise. This was deliberate. At first, No one could decode it. The signal was compressed, ultra-dense, almost like a digital zip file from deep space. But buried inside was structure, repetition, patterns. Then came meaning. And the first decoded fragment, the first clear message, was not what anyone expected, is greater than not a visit. That was the first line. Then, after a 3-second pause, is greater than return. Suddenly, everything made sense and nothing did. Return. Return from where? Return to what? Was 3i Atlas coming home? Or was it reactivating someone or something already here? The rest of the transmission was still locked, too complex, too advanced. But inside NASA, ESA, and private black labs around the world, panic began to spread. This changes everything. Governments moved fast, quietly, pushing emergency meetings behind closed doors. Satellite feeds began going offline one by one. Public space webcams suddenly under maintenance. NOAA's magnetic data pages timed out. Space weather feeds blurred. If you know where to look, you can see the cover-up in real time. But they can't hide everything, because minutes after the transmission ended, something new appeared in space. Just beyond Earth's orbit, almost lost in the darkness, astronomers detected a second object. It wasn't there before. It wasn't on any track. It wasn't observed approaching. It was just there, motionless, silent, waiting. It wasn't a comet. It wasn't a rock. It wasn't a fragment. It was geometric. Even through distortion, you can see it, a perfect black cube rotating slowly in the void. Artificial. Unmistakably artificial. And it's holding position between Earth and the Sunday, exactly where 3i Atlas once projected its beam. It's almost as if 3i Atlas didn't just send a signal. It opened a door, and whatever is coming next has already begun. Do you see it now? The patterns, the alignments, the buried structures, the pulse, the rings under our oceans, the ancient warnings in stone, the hidden hum inside Earth itself. This wasn't sudden. This didn't begin with 3i Atlas. This was always coming. We just weren't listening. But now the message is here, and it's no longer in the sky. It's here, and this time they didn't ask permission. The world changed, and almost no one noticed. Not yet, because while the black cube hovered in space like a silent executioner, something far more dangerous began happening down here on Earth. It started in the deep ocean. Seismic stations along the Pacific Rim, Chile, Japan, New Zealand began detecting rhythmic tremors, not earthquakes. These pulses were too smooth, too perfectly timed, exactly every 24 seconds. The same frequency as the 3i Atlas pulse. At first, scientists thought it was equipment interference. Then the readings showed up again on separate instruments, on separate continents, under separate oceans. The pulse wasn't random. It wasn't weather. It wasn't geological. It was coming from inside the planet, and it triggered something old. Across the world, ancient megalithic sites, places built long before modern history began behaving strangely. Stonehenge, the pyramids, Easter Island, Göbekli Tepe, Nabta Playa. Tourists didn't notice, but researchers did. Instruments recorded sudden electromagnetic surges near these sites, short bursts of energy that matched the incoming pulse from space. These ancient locations were not random. They sat along geomagnetic nodes, exactly where Earth's magnetic field intersects with crustal anomalies. Scientists used to laugh at the idea that ancient civilizations knew anything about geomagnetic energy. No one is laughing anymore, because the pulse didn't just interact with these sites, it activated them. At Stonehenge, drone footage captured faint luminous arcs between stones just for a split second before vanishing. At the pyramids, LiDAR scans detected low-frequency resonance vibrating inside the Great Pyramid like a massive tuning chamber waking up, and in Antarctica, the supposed final point of the spiral satellite imagery captured something no one can explain. For 9 minutes and 12 seconds, a perfectly circular region more than 30 miles wide became electromagnetically invisible. Radar couldn't scan it. Infrared bounced off it. Satellites glitched when passing overhead. Then, just as suddenly, it came back, like nothing had happened. But that wasn't the part that terrified people inside NASA. What terrified them was what they found right after. A geometric shape, massive, buried deep under the ice, was captured on a short burst of ground-penetrating radar before the blackout. A triangle, 3 equal sides. Perfect symmetry, almost too perfect to be natural. And in its center, a hollow chamber, a chamber that is now emitting the same pulse as 3I Atlas. Something underground is responding. Something ancient, something watching. And here is the most chilling possibility. 3I Atlas did not come here for Earth. It came to wake Earth up. This isn't a comet story. This isn't astronomy anymore. This is a planetary event. A countdown has started, and the pulse is getting stronger. We're not waiting for contact. Contact has already begun. Whatever is happening to Earth is no longer a theory, it's accelerating. The pulse that began as a faint cosmic whisper is now bleeding into everything: our power grids, our oceans, our atmosphere, our minds. Scientists no longer deny it. Military insiders no longer downplay it. Something is synchronizing Earth. And now, the effects are becoming impossible to hide. Birds have begun migrating out of season, thousands of them moving in perfect formation, not by instinct, but as if following some invisible pattern. Whale pods are leaving traditional feeding grounds and gathering in strange circular formations in the open ocean. Even insects, bees, ants, and dragonflies are clustering in spirals, moving in rhythms that match the pulse from space. It doesn't stop there. Human beings are beginning to feel it too. Hospitals are reporting a worldwide surge in sleep disturbances. People who never experienced sleep paralysis before are now reporting identical hallucinations. A feeling of a low vibration in the room, a strange hum that seems to come from under the earth, and a presence that feels like it's calling from far away, but also deep inside their chest. And then there are the dreams. People are dreaming of geometric shapes, circles, spirals, and strange grid patterns. They sketch them on notepads when they wake up. Every continent, every language, the same symbols, These patterns, now called the signal mark, have already been found carved into ancient stone ruins and deep cave walls across the world. Civilizations that never contacted each other somehow drew the same spirals and the same triangle. Nobody knew what it meant. Now we do. It's the map 3I Atlas has been transmitting since it arrived. And that brings us to the real question no scientist or government dares to say out loud. This isn't just a visit. This is an activation. The pulse, now strong enough to be detected by household electronics, has unlocked something buried in our own planet. Something that has been here long before us. Something that was waiting. NASA isn't warning the public, they can't. But something leaked, an internal briefing labeled simply, is greater than non-terrestrial installation detected. Status, dormant, reactivating. Hidden deep under our planet, under the ice, under the oceans, there are structures that are not from here. And for the first time in known history, they are turning on. This isn't just a space mystery anymore, it's the biggest discovery in human history. And if this pulse continues growing, it may not stop until every one of those structures is fully awake. And when that happens, whatever built them may return, or worse, they may already be here. Everything we thought we knew about reality just cracked open. You're not going to want to miss what comes next. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, inside one of the most restricted facilities on Earth, a silent emergency meeting was underway. No cameras, no recordings, just a room full of people who never appear in public, people whose names will never be known. Military analysts, space agency directors, black budget engineers, and one man from NASA who broke the silence with 6 cold words. We are no longer in control. He wasn't talking about space. He wasn't talking about 3I Atlas. He was talking about Earth. Because something below us, inside our planet, is responding to that pulse. And it's no longer subtle. Over the last 48 hours, seismic monitoring stations have detected perfectly timed underground vibrations, not random earthquakes, but synchronized harmonic tremors. The same tremors repeated every 24 seconds, exactly matching the pulse that began leaking from 3I Atlas weeks ago. But earthquakes don't pulse. Volcanoes don't pulse. Nature doesn't pulse. Artificial systems do. The tremors are coming from 8 specific locations around the world, each of them areas long shrouded in myth and mystery. Under the Mariana Trench, beneath Antarctica's subglacial caverns, near Easter Island, deep under the Great Rift Valley in Africa, beneath the Himalayas, in the Peruvian Andes, Tandru Tan, under the Sahara Desert, far from any tectonic fault, and buried below Siberia, where no natural explanation exists. These aren't random. They form a geometric network across the Earth's crust. And when researchers mapped the interference patterns, the truth hit like ice. Those locations align perfectly with the spiral geometry transmitted by 3I Atlas. This wasn't natural behavior. Earth was behaving like a machine turning itself back on. The classified briefing continued. The U.S. Navy had deployed unmanned submersibles to the Mariana site and Antarctica. What they found should have been impossible. Metallic readings, thousands of meters below the ice and ocean floor readings that do not match any known natural formation. And where the pulse signal is strongest, strange anomalies follow. Compass failure, clock drift, neutrino reading spikes, localized magnetic field distortions, radial blackouts lasting exactly 24 seconds. Someone in the meeting finally asked what everyone else was afraid to say. If these are structures, who built them? No one answered at first. Then, one voice spoke, the only astrophysicist in the room. They didn't arrive, she said quietly. They were left here. Silence. No one wanted to consider what that meant. Because if that was true, then 3I Atlas didn't come here to observe us. It didn't come to explore. It came to wake something up. And whatever that something is, it's not human. Now, every government agency, from NASA to the ESA to China's CNSA, is pretending there's no emergency. But the truth is spreading. Leaked seismic data is moving across dark web channels. Independent astronomers have detected the pulse, and deep-sea monitoring systems are picking up mechanical echo sounds that are not geological. If these aren't random natural reactions, if these are installations buried inside our planet, then there is only one question left. Who put them there? And what happens when they finish powering up? Because the signal is still growing and time is running out. Whatever is waking up beneath us isn't stopping. For years, scientists have called Earth a living planet, but they meant it poetically. Volcanoes, weather cycles, shifting continents. Now, that phrase means something very different. The pulse from space isn't just shaking the planet anymore, it's changing it. First, it was the synchronized seismic tremors. Then came the strange electromagnetic hum echoing across the oceans. But yesterday, something new appeared, patterns. People around the world are hearing it now. Not just machines, not just instruments, humans. It started as faint pressure in the ears, like when a jet flies too high above you. Then came the tone, a low rising hum repeating every 24 seconds, exactly timed. Some people hear it as a vibration. Others feel it in their bones. In parts of Iceland, Peru, and South Africa, entire communities reported sleepless nights, headaches, and a strange sensation described as like being watched by something you can't see. Doctors blamed anxiety. Governments blamed microwaves and cell towers. But the pulse doesn't come from the sky. It's rising from inside the planet. Deep mining rigs in Siberia have reported tool malfunctions and magnetic overloads below 11,000 feet. Subterranean drones sent into the African Rift returned with melted hulls and corrupted data. And then there's the audio file, the one that wasn't supposed to leak. A group of marine researchers in the Indian Ocean deployed hydrophones, underwater microphones, to record tectonic shifts caused by the pulse. What they captured wasn't shifting rock. It wasn't thermal cracking. It wasn't whale song. It was patterned, constructed, structured. It was a signal. No random natural sound has mathematical rhythm, but this did. It contained repeating ratios, variable pitch slopes, harmonic intervals, like language but not ours. One encrypted message was attached to the leaked file by the anonymous insider who released it online. Is greater than "it isn't trying to reach us." It's trying to coordinate something. Coordinate what? Earthquakes aren't random anymore. They're happening in waves, lining up with the pulse. Volcanic activity is up 40% worldwide. Even the planet's rotation is acting strange. Atomic clocks measuring Earth's spin rate reported anomalous micro-delays during every pulse cycle. Something is affecting not just the surface but the core, and that brings us to the part no one wants to talk about. The geodynamo, the engine that generates Earth's magnetic field, is acting unstable. Fluctuations were already increasing over the last decade. But now, the field is weakening at specific geographic points, creating magnetic voids over several regions, including Brazil, the Indian Ocean, and Antarctica. Guess what else lies beneath Antarctica? One of the 8 poles convergence points. Satellite images from that exact location show a perfect heat circle, 50 miles wide, under the ice. The glow is rising. Whatever is beneath Antarctica is not just alive, it's activating. NASA will deny this. The governments of the world will deny this. But there is proof if you know where to look. Because 3i Atlas wasn't just signaling Earth. Earth signaled back. Nobody knows what message we just sent or who received it. But something out there heard us. And now something is coming. The message was sent intentionally or not. And now everything has changed. For weeks, astronomers assumed the silence after the pulse was just a data blackout. Maybe the signal drowned out our instruments. Maybe Earth's magnetosphere was still recovering from the last solar storm. Maybe we just weren't looking in the right direction. But then, telescopes in Chile saw it first. A faint glint in deep space. Not a star, not a comet. Something moving fast yet decelerating as it approached the edge of our solar system. The team at the Atacama Observatory logged it as an unidentified inbound reflector. They assumed it was just a lost asteroid, but within hours, 3 other observatories detected it too, at the exact same coordinates. It wasn't drifting randomly. It was on a trajectory, and then came the pattern no one could ignore. Every 24 seconds, like clockwork, it emitted a flash. Not bright enough to be a starburst, not consistent with cosmic ray scattering. It was a pulse of energy timed to match the same rhythm coming from Earth. The same rhythm triggered by 3i Atlas. This wasn't a comet. It wasn't a piece of space junk. This thing, whatever it was, heard the pulse and responded. NASA locked onto it with infrared scans. ESA tracked its velocity, but it was the Keck Observatory in Hawaii that got the first high-resolution shape model. Not a sphere like an asteroid, not jagged like a rock, angular, symmetrical, engineered. Something artificial is entering our solar system. At first, agencies tried to hide it, filed it under classified orbital anomaly. But then, amateur astronomers noticed something disturbing. The object didn't reflect sunlight like normal. It absorbed it. Its surface was pitch black, blacker than space itself, as if coated in material beyond anything humans have invented. Light didn't bounce off it, it vanished into it. And that wasn't even the worst part. because 3 days ago, it changed direction. Asteroids don't do that. Comets don't do that. Space junk doesn't do that. Only one thing does. A craft that navigates, the world still doesn't know. The public still doesn't know. News networks won't report it until they're told what to say. But someone leaked the orbital projection, and that changed everything. This thing, this object is coming. It isn't heading for Mars. It isn't heading for Jupiter. It isn't even heading for the asteroid belt. It adjusted course. Now it's headed straight for Earth. Estimated arrival, 78 days. The signal woke something up beneath our planet, and whatever heard it is now coming here. Is this a rescue mission? A return mission? Or an inspection? Why now? Why approach now right after Earth began responding to 3I Atlas? And more importantly, who or what built it? The James Webb Telescope detected heat signatures along its structure just enough to confirm one chilling detail. This thing isn't running cold. It's powered, and if it has power, it has a purpose. Something is happening now, right now, and nobody in power is prepared to explain it. The object heading toward Earth, the one responding to the pulse from 3I Atlas, has entered the inner solar system. And it didn't slow down because of gravity. It cut its speed in half deliberately. No known asteroid does that. No comet does that. Only something under control does that. And then worldwide telescopes witnessed the moment that changed everything. It activated. A faint halo appeared around its structure, a thin, luminous ring pulsing with the same rhythm that now echoes inside Earth's magnetic field. The same rhythm 3I Atlas left buried in our atmosphere. The rhythm that never stopped. 24 seconds, 24 seconds, 24 seconds. Then, out of nowhere, earthquakes began syncing with it. Instruments in Japan, Chile, Iceland all recorded microquakes pulsing every 24 seconds. Machines built to detect randomness suddenly found something terrifying. Precision? Our planet is resonating to something, responding to something, aligning whether we want it to or not. And then came the final confirmation. NASA's Deep Space Network received a carrier signal directly from the object. It didn't use a human frequency. It didn't speak our language. But hidden inside the carrier wave was a structure, a repeating harmonic pattern. We've seen it before. It's the same pattern found in the WOW signal from 1977. The same pattern detected at the bottom of the Mariana Trench in 2018. The same pattern secretly logged under Program Echo, a discontinued deep space communications scan allegedly shut down by NASA after detecting a structured anomaly from the direction of Orion. And now, that same frequency, it's talking again. The signal translated into a simple numerical code, one that left every scientist who analyzed it pale and silent. 3 numbers: 3, 6, 9. The same numbers Nikola Tesla claimed were the secret to the universe, a harmonic key, a universal code of energy and vibration. But then AI pattern analysis found something deeper. The numbers weren't just math, they were coordinate, latitude, longitude, a precise location on Earth, Antarctica, right beneath the ice, right where an underground structure was found by radar in 1997 and classified by the US government. All at once, everything makes sense. 3I Atlas didn't come here alone. It activated Earth. Now something else is coming for what's here. Not by accident, not curiosity, intention. And if this thing reaching Earth really is contact, then we aren't observers in this story. We are participants. Something is buried under Antarctica, and whatever it is, they're coming to get it. Because 3I Atlas wasn't a warning, it was a signal. And that object approaching Earth, whatever it is, it just sent a final transmission. It didn't ask a question. It didn't send a greeting. It sent one sentence. One message Earth has now received in full. Prepare for entry. Whatever is coming, it will be here soon. Whatever happens next, NASA won't explain it. The governments won't warn us. The media won't cover it. But we will. So don't miss what comes next. If you want the truth, not the polished story, but the raw signal behind it, then stay with this channel, because this is only the beginning. Subscribe now and meet me in the next video. The object nearing Earth just revealed its true shape. And trust me, you're going to want to see it.